Hello everyone, it's Neil here from 3D Tutor, back today with another full course, and this one we're going to make a medieval door. If you've not seen the time-lapse that I created, go to my channel and find the time-lapse on the medieval door and you'll see exactly what we're going to cover in this course and see if it's right for you. All the resources that we use in this course, they will be linked down below to a Dropbox, so just download them and then you'll have them ready to use as we move along. It's much later in the course though when we use those, but just get them downloaded ready, or in fact you can use them on something else if you like. So with that said, let's get started. So we will actually delete the cube, we're not going to need that for now. We'll delete the camera just so that's out of the way, and we'll delete this light. So all I'm doing is left clicking and pressing the delete button just to delete those. Then what we're going to do is we're going to press Shift A to bring in a primitive. We're going to come to where it says mesh, and we're going to come down to where it says cylinder. Now this cylinder at the moment has far too many edges, so let's come down to the left hand side here, click on this arrow that I clicked on, and then let's change vertices down to something like 18. And now we're free to move this around. So let's press RY 90 and we'll just turn it so that when I press 1 on the number pad, I want it basically facing towards me. And at the moment you can see it's not facing towards me, so what I'll do is I'll press RZ 90 just to rotate it round to get it in the right place. Then I'm going to press Shift Space, and that's going to bring in my move tool, and now you can see we've got our gizmo here and we're free to move this around. So let's pull it up a bit. We're not actually going to worry about proper sizing or anything like that at the moment. Once we've built it, you can scale it and take it into a games engine like Unreal or Unity or something like that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to press Tab to go into edit mode. We're going to come up to the top left hand side here and we're going to select faces. So let's select this face. We'll come around the back, we'll shift click on this face and then we'll press delete and we'll go down to where it says faces. Now what we want to do is we want to basically delete where the point is that it's actually going to come down vertically in a straight line. You can see that here is where it comes out here and then it starts to go back in. So this would be a good polygon to delete. So let's delete the same on the other side. Press delete, click faces. Now hover over this part of the mesh, press L to select it all, and then press delete and faces. Now let's get this thing so it's the right size for what we want to do. So if I press 1 on my number pad, press A, S, I'm just going to scale it out a little bit, and basically this is going to be the stonework that's actually going round the door. So you can see here that when I bring this down, it's probably going to be a bit too short. So I'll press Shift Space again, bring my move tool in, lift it up a little bit, and I would say that actually the cylinder that we bring in is probably the right dimensions. We don't really want to bring it in that much on the x-axis. You can bring it out a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll press SX and just bring it out just a tiny bit, something like that. And then I can kind of see where my door and frame is going to go around here. And I think that'll be really, really nice. So now what I'll do is I'll come to Edge Select, grab this edge and this edge, press 1, press E for extrude, Z for the Z axis, and just pull the mouse down till it reaches the bottom of the ground plane here, and you should end up with something like this. Now if we hover over it, press L, S, Y, and let's just squeeze it in just till we've got something that we're happy with and the right thickness for our stone blocks that are going to go round the top of our doorway. Now what I'll do is with everything grabbed, I'll press E for extrude and press the enter button, and then I'll come up to my two links here, make sure it's on medium point, and then if you press S to scale, you'll be able to actually scale it out. So what you want to do now is you want to make sure that these blocks are about the right size for what you're actually trying to achieve here. Now the thing is that what I always do is I look at these blocks that are here. These are kind of the last ones before this big block here. So I'll press 1, and then what I try and do is level those up. So you can see here that they're pretty level now, and you'll see now that this is pretty much level all the way across. And now it's a simple case of grabbing everything, coming up to mesh, coming down to bisect, and then what we'll do is we'll cut it across along here. Now what I want to do is I want to let go, but what I want to do, if I zoom in a little bit, you can see that it's just below this ground plane here, so make sure you cut across there. Then come over, if this is not open, click it open, and just make sure that this where it says 0.001, or it'll say something like 0.008 depending on how straight you've actually cut the line, just set this to 0, and what that'll do is that'll make sure that the cut is actually straight. If I come in and turn this up, you can see that it's really wonky, so we can actually change that if we want to, but for this we want it set to 0. Next thing we want to do is we want to clear the inner, and that just makes sure that we've got rid of that mesh, and now it's a nice straight cut along it. Alright, now that's done, what we can do is we can grab the outside of here. So let's grab these, and the reason I'm going to do that is if we look from this angle, you can see that they slant out a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to press 7 on the number pad, and that'll give us a top view of it, and then we'll press the Z button, and that will actually take us then to wireframe if we click on this button here, and that means we can actually see through the mesh now. So what I can do now is I can press S and Y, and I can actually bring it in just so it's level with those ones underneath, and that makes sure then that when I let go of it and I press the Z button again, go into solid, that it's nice and level going pretty much all the way around. Now the last thing we want to do is we want to press Ctrl R and bring in a edge loop. So let's come in and press Ctrl R to bring in an edge loop, and at the moment you can't actually do anything with it. You can actually place it wherever you want it, so you can even place it going across here or something like that. What I'll do is I'll hover over this face here, and I'm going to press 5 on the number pad, and that'll bring in 5 edge loops. And if I now left click, you'll see that they are able to be moved up and down. And basically what I want to do is I want to hit right click on the mouse, and that will drop them in to the center. If I left click on the mouse here, it means that they'll be placed wherever this mouse is. So right click, and you can see they're dropped in central, and you can also see that they're roughly about the same size. We might be able to get away with 4 and not 5 here, so I'll press Ctrl Z, go back, Ctrl R, 4, left click, right click, and we can see now that these are much more of a better size in comparison to these. So now we'll do the same on here, so it's Ctrl R, 4, left click, right click, and that'll drop them in place. And what we're going to do now is we're going to come up to our face select, and I'm going to actually split them up. So I'll come to this face first, and I'll press Alt and Shift and click. If I click heading towards the top, you'll see it selects all these going around. I don't actually want to do that, so let me just take that off with AA. And what I'll do is Alt Shift click in this actual facing this way, going this way, and that'll select all of those faces going all the way around. And I'll do the same going all the way up, so I can grab all these faces all the way around. When I get to the bottom, what I'll do is I'll press Y now, and you won't see anything happen, but when I've pressed Y, you'll see now if I press G, which allows you to free move any object, so if I press G, you'll see that I can move them over here, and they're all actually split up from the other parts of the mesh. So now if I press right click on the mouse, it'll just drop them back into place, and now I'll press A to grab everything around here. I'm going to come up to my little links here, and I'm going to come down and make sure we're on individual origins, and this just means that we're going to scale them in individually based on each one of these stone blocks. So let's now press S to scale, bring them in like that, and now you'll see they're all scaled in nice and evenly. Next thing you want to do, you want to make sure you've just got everything selected. If you've not, just press A and that'll select everything. Come up to mesh, come down to where it says clean up, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually fill holes. And now you'll see that we've got faces all the way around on all of these, which is exactly what we want. We don't need these faces however on the bottom, so what we'll do is we'll click on this one, shift click this one, press delete, and faces. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is actually mark some seams on this, and seams are basically a way where we can put our materials or textures on, and basically wrapping it around these pieces of mesh. If we don't mark any seams, it will try and put the texture or material onto these stone blocks, and it'll just come out looking like a blurry mess because Blender doesn't know where to start and where to end. It's basically an infinite loop, and it'll come out on the UV map just a mess. So let's do that now. So what we'll do is we'll come in and select every other one. So I'm hovering over them, pressing the L button to select each other one, and the reason I'm doing it like this is just to make it easy so that we can mark our seams. So once I've selected all these, I'm going to press H for hide, and then I'm going to come down and I'm going to select this face and shift select this one, and just keep shift held down and select them going all the way around, and then we're going to come to the other way and select the bottoms of them again, or the tops all the way around, and then I'm going to press Ctrl E and that's going to bring a menu up, and if we scroll down here we can see that it says mark seams, and now we've got all the seams marked on these blocks, so that's a great start. Now let's press Alt H just to bring those blocks back that we hid, and now we're going to select the blocks that we've just made. Now you'll see there's a problem. If I select them with L now, because I'm on face select, it won't select the top or the bottom ones, and that is because that this seam actually cuts it off so that I cannot select it all. So what I have to do instead, I have to come up to edge select, and then I can select them all with the L button. So let's go all the way around, select the ones that we've already done, press the H button, come back to face select, and now what we'll do is we'll select these ones, holding down shift again, all the way around, and then we'll go to these top ones. And I've found this is just a really quick way of marking seams, and perhaps it's better to do it this way because then as we're building everything we'll have its seams marked, and it's not so much of a bind when you come to the end and you've got to mark all the seams across all your model. So now let's press Ctrl E, and again we'll click mark seams. And now we've got all those done, what we're going to press is Alt H just to bring everything back, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go around the back and we're actually going to delete these spaces. If you're not sure where the back is, press 1 on your number pad, that will take you to the front view, middle mouse, just rotate round, and let's click on all these back faces. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to actually delete these, and the reason is it's going to save us a lot of polygons in the long run, and polygons is always something that you want to save on, because when we take into games engines and things like that, or even when we render it out in Blender, the more polygons we have, the longer everything takes. Now with all these selected, let's press delete and faces and just get rid of all those. And now what we can do is we can actually press the tab button, and we can come over to the right hand side, this little spanner, this is our modifiers tab. Click on it and you'll end up with something like this. And now if you click add modifier, and what we're going to do is we're going to generate a bevel modifier, and you'll end up with something looking kind of like this, which is a bit too much bevel. So let's come down to where it says offset, and let's just turn this down pretty much all the way to something that you're happy with. Now to really see how this is going to look, what we're going to do is we're going to press tab button, we're going to come up and make sure that we're on individual origins on our links, we're going to press A, and then we're going to press S, and we're just going to bring them out so they're very close to each other. You really don't want to see any light through there, so you can see it's a little bit of light through there, so just bring them up just so they're really close. Now with these stone tablets, I think I'll put it on 0.02, not put 0.01, just to give it a bit more bevel than what it's actually got here. So let's turn that up one. And now what we'll do is we'll right click and we're going to click shade smooth. So if you right click anywhere in the viewport and you'll end up with a menu like this, just click shade smooth and you'll end up with something like this. What Blender's trying to do here is it's just trying to smooth the whole of the mesh here, which is not something that we really want. So if you come down now to this triangle here, and what we're going to do is we're going to come to normal and we're going to click auto smooth. This then is based on an angle of 30%. So what you can see is it smooths some parts off and other parts is actually left as a hard face like this. Okay, and that's exactly what we want. And now if we come over to our spanner again, and what we're going to do is we're going to apply this modifier, because later on in the course we're actually going to add another modifier to these once we've got the materials and textures on. And lastly now what we need to do just to finish this off is we need to press tab, and you can see here that we've got marked seams on here. We really don't need these ones, we only need a seam on the top and on the bottom. So an easy way to clear those is if we come down to all of these stone blocks, press Alt, Shift and click, and just click them all round in the middle. So we grab them all the way round, and you can see that the ones that we've actually selected are just touching the seam or the second seam on these blocks, the ones that we don't need. So what we'll do is when we select them all, press Ctrl E and clear seam, and now you'll see that we've only got one seam running all the way around. And I think this is a really fast way of actually marking seams for things like this. So now let's press tab and go into object mode and start on our doorway. So again, what we'll do now is we'll press Shift A and we'll bring in another cylinder. Now if you've not reloaded Blender, it should come in with 18 vertices again, exactly the same as the first primitive we brought in, because that is what we actually set it at. So I think it'll be a good time actually to go over to File, and we'll come over to Save As, and we're actually going to save it out. So I'm going to save mine as Castle Door Main Tutorial, and then just press enter and press enter again, and that will actually save it out. And now when you save it, you can come up to file and just click save button. Alright, so let's rotate this on the x-axis, so RX90, and let's get it into place. Let's press 1 on the number pad, bring it up and bring it out a little bit. Now this will be the wooden frame that goes around our actual door. So this actually needs to be slightly bigger than the actual door. So if I press S and Z now, I'm just going to scale it up just a little bit. Press the tab button, make sure you're in face select, select the front and the back face with shift select, press delete and faces. And what we're going to do again is we're going to delete the ones that are going down. So you can see here if I press 1 that this one here is fine because it's actually pointing downwards. So if I come in and I delete the ones that are starting to bend in, so delete faces, hover over this, L, delete faces, and now I can come in and with edge select on, grab the bottom of these edges on both the sides, press 1, E for extrude, Z, and just pull them down again just below the ground plane. I'm just going to shrink it in now, so I'm going to grab the whole thing with L, S and Y, bring it in, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of this, and that's going to help us make our door in a little while. So now let's press Shift D, enter, and that will make a copy, and there you go, you can just drag it out like that, and that's there now to make our door frame. So what we'll do now is we'll actually work on this part. So if we come into face select, and what we'll do is we'll delete these faces here, and just press delete and faces, come into edge select, grab this edge here, so Alt, Shift and click, and that will grab them all going around there. Shift D, and you'll end up with just an edge like here. You can actually delete this now, so press L, press delete, vertices, that'll get rid of everything for you. And now just hover over it, press L, and that's selected everything. 1, and now what you're going to do is you're going to press E, Z, bring it down, and you'll end up with something like this, which is the start of our door. And now if we select it all with L, 1 again, come up to mesh, and again down to the bisect, and we're just going to cut it right at the bottom of there, like so. Again, just make sure it's below the ground plane. Come over and you can see mine is on 0.003. I'm going to set this to 0, and because I already had clear inner on last time I used this, it's actually cleared the inner for me. Now we need to mark some seams on this door, so if I come in and I select these, so I've got one piece of wood here which is basically made up of 2 parts, and then these are singular parts as you can see. So I'm going to right click this time because I'm on actually edge select, so right click, come down to mark seams, and then I'm going to Alt, Shift and click, going all the way around, all the way down here, and all the way around the bottom. Now if I right click once more, mark seams, and you should end up with something like this. The only ones that aren't marked are these ones here. Now let's come to face select, grab every other one, press the Y button, and to let you know that it's worked, press the G, and you'll see that it's all split up. Right click and just drop them back in place. Okay, so let's just now make sure that these are split up from each other. So let's go to edge select, select one of these edges, press L so that we've only got this selected, press the P, and what that's going to do is it's going to separate this mesh from our door. So let's click selection. Now what we can do is we can press tab button, and you can see now that we've got 2 objects. So let's come back to our door here, and what we'll do now is we'll press tab, A, and let's extrude it out. So E, and pull it out the other way like so, just to give it some thickness. Press 1, and what we're going to do now, because we've only got these selected, these front faces, when we bring these in, the back faces should actually stay touching each other. So what we can do, we can press 1, come up to our links again, make sure you're on individual origins, and now if you press S and X and bring them in, you'll see now that we've got some nice pieces of wood for our door. Now what we can do is we can press tab, we can go around the back, so come around the back and grab each one of these, and now we can come up to mesh, clean up, and you can merge by distance. And what this will do is this will connect each one of these just to make sure that we've got no gaps down the back of it and you can't actually see through it. So mesh, clean up, merge by distance, and you can see here remove 10 vertices. And what that means is now if I click on this one, we split it earlier, now you'll see that it's actually joined, whereas the front, as you can see, is not joined, and that's exactly the look we're going for. Okay, so let's get this in place now. So if I press tab, press Ctrl A, and what we're going to do is we're going to reset all the transforms. Now this is really important when you're adding modifiers or anything like that, or when you're trying to move something or duplicate it. What you basically do is you set all the transforms back to 0. Now if you don't do this, when you come to unwrap something, you're probably going to have some problems. Like these stone blocks, I don't think we actually reset the transformation, so we'll do that in just 1 minute. And basically what it is, if you bring in a cube and you change that cube and you change the bevels, and you bevels the sides and you do loads of things in it, and then you come to unwrap it or you come to add a modifier, if you haven't reset the transforms, Blender still thinks that it's actually transforming a cube. So once we reset the transforms, Blender knows that we're actually working on something a bit more elaborate than the cube. So let's press Ctrl A, click all transforms, and then what we're going to do is we're going to right click on the viewport, come down to where it says set origin, and go down to origin to geometry, and that's actually just going to put it right in the center of whatever we're working on. Now what we can do is we can actually move it back into some sort of place. I'm not sure if it's going to go there yet, but it seems okay at the moment. The other thing is, of course, now this is the time when you really want to look to see how big your door is and if you actually want it that big. At the moment I feel like it's a little bit big, so what I'll do is I'll grab this door, grab this back, because this is actually going to be the door frame, press 1, press the S button, and I'm just going to bring it in just a little bit because I think it's just a tad too big, something like that. And you can press SZ as well if you want to, and just pull it up and make it whatever size you want. This is probably going to be the last chance that you can actually do this. You can probably do it when you've got your door frame on, but it's just going to make it a little bit more difficult. So what we'll do now we've done that is we can come to our door frame, and you'll notice the door frame center of origin is here, and that's what we don't want. So what we'll do is we'll press Ctrl A, all transforms, and we're going to have to do it again when we've altered that, but it just makes it easy. So now let's press right click, set origin to geometry, and now it's bang in the center of there, and we can actually free to move this now into place around here. Now the other thing is, let's actually set the transforms on these stone blocks because I don't think we did it. So click on them, Ctrl A, all transforms, right click, set origin to geometry. Now when I come to UV unwrap these should unwrap very, very nicely. So now let's come to the door frame, and what we'll do is we'll grab our door frame, and you can see the door frame is a little bit out, so let's sort that out now. So I can't see the door frame at the moment because it's a flat piece of mesh, but what we're going to do is anyway we're going to bring in another modifier. We're going to give this some depth, so let's come over to add modifier, come down to solidify, and if I pull this back the other way, you'll see now that we've actually got some depth to it. So now we can see what we're doing, and if we press 1 we can see that we need to bring this down, and we probably need to make it just a little bit smaller, something like that, and just basically make it fit around your door. Now there are going to be pieces of wood that come along here, this axis, so we need to make sure that we pull it back a little bit just to make sure they're not too thick. Now we can also see that we're missing at the bottom, and we need to sort that out as well. So let's do that now. So if we grab this now at the moment, and what we can do is we can press tab, we can come into edge select, grab this edge and this one. You can't actually grab the ones at the moment around the outside because we've still got our modifier on and we've not applied it yet. If we press 1, and now you can see we can actually bring this down, and we want to bring it down just below where this door actually comes. So once we've done that, we can press tab, we can press apply, press tab again, and now you'll end up with something like this. Now because this is a wooden door frame, it doesn't matter about these pieces of wood. It would be quite logical for them to have a long piece of wood going up and the wood to split actually as it goes round. So I don't need to put any edge loops or anything like that down, and that makes this a bit easier to work on than the stone blocks. So now let's come to face select. I'll click on this face first here just to make sure I've got nothing else selected. Then I'll press Alt, Shift and click twice, and I'm just going to do the same thing going all the way around just to make sure that I've got all of these parts separated. I'm going to press Y to separate, and again just to make sure they're separated, again to habit of doing this, press the G button for free movement and you'll see that they are split up. Now the one thing you can see is that this bottom part here is actually split away from this, which is fine because we're going to delete these anyway. So let's shift click this one, press delete and faces, and then we've got those out of the way. And now what we can do is we can grab the whole thing, we can press S and just bring them in like so. Now these will always drop down further than these ones, that's absolutely fine. And now let's fill these holes. So come up to mesh, come down to clean up, and let's fill holes. Alright, so now let's come around the back and actually delete the face on the back. We're not going to need those, and we're going to save on our polygons. So let's click on all these, press delete and faces. And before I bring these back close together, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark seams just to make this easy for myself. So I'm just going to go around and mark all the faces on the inside of all of these wooden blocks, and we're going to mark these actual faces as the seams, because then if you look, when this unwraps, it's like unwrapping a present. These will unwrap separately. These are mostly hidden from these parts, which are all on show. So the material will start here and wrap all the way around here, and then these will be a separate piece where the material will go on. So that is why we're doing it that way. And this is a very easy way of unwrapping something like this. So now Control E and mark seams, and there we go. And what we're also going to do while we've got these here, we're going to actually press Control E again, and we're going to actually mark a sharp. Now you won't see anything happen at the moment, and that is because if you come up to these two interlocking circles here, click this down arrow, come down to where it says seams and click it off, you'll see that underneath them is sharps that are actually marked. Now sharps basically make it so that when we come to smooth this, no matter what we turn this up to, so this angle, these will always stay basically a hard face, and that's what we want on these pieces of wood. So let's come up to our interlocking circles, put seams back on just so they're hidden, and what we can do is we can press A now, press 1, grab everything, and we can start bringing these back in so they're nearly touching, something like that. You do want to make sure that there's a little tiny gap down there like this, and now we can come over to our spanner once again, add modifier, and we can click on Bevel Modifier, and you'll end up with something like that, which is not ideal. So again, let's turn this down to something like 0.01 this time, because they are pieces of wood, so the amount of bevel on them would be nothing like the actual stone. Okay, so let's make a start on these pieces of wood going upwards along here and along the side. So what we need to do is we need to press Shift A, mesh, come down to where it says cube, and what we're going to do is we're going to bring a cube in. I'm going to pull it out a little bit, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the parts that no one will be able to see, just to make it easy for this to actually unwrap. So if I delete the top, back and the bottom, press delete faces, and you should end up with something like that. And you can see now that when we unwrap this, it'll just unwrap flat on either side. So I'll have these two flaps that'll just come out. So now I can grab it with L, press 1, press the S button to scale it in, and if I bring it across, and let's say I want it going up here, but I want it to be round about the same thickness as this piece of wood here. So if I press S, bring it in, pull it up a little bit, and maybe make it a little bit thinner, something like that I think will be absolutely fine. And now I can bring it into place, and you can see that it sticks out way too far. So if I press S and Y and just bring it in till I'm happy, and you can see that if I move it across, I want it so that it's just tucked in just past here. So you can see that we've still got that edge there, and then our piece of wood actually starts here. And the other thing is, at the bottom of here, there is going to be a piece of wood going on here, so I don't actually need this right down at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick it up just a little bit like so, and now I'm free to actually work on this. Now it's actually in place. One thing I do want to make sure is that it's actually touching there, so just make sure it's yours touching there. And if you want to see where it's touching, you can grab the edge here, and you can see that it's right in actually there. So I just tried to grab it, and it actually goes through the mesh and grabs it. So there's a little tip. So now let's click this edge, and this edge, press 1 on the number pad, and let's pull it up into place. And you can see that at the moment we can actually see through the mesh, and we can see that it's not poking out. And now we've got this in place, what we want to do is we want to put this on the other side as well. So what we'll do is we'll press the tab button, And at the moment, my center of origin is right in the center. That is actually where I need it. If yours isn't, press Shift S, cursor to world origin. While this is selected, in object mode, right click, set origin to 3D cursor. And what that means is now the center of origin is set here, which means that when we come over to our spanner again, add another modifier, come down to mirror, it's going to mirror it from this origin here. You can't have your origin here, or what it'll do is it'll mirror it on itself, and you just end up with two pieces of wood basically over the top of each other. Okay, so now let's click apply because we don't need our mirror modifier anymore. Press tab, let's grab this piece of wood, Shift D, that's just to basically make a copy of it, so I'm just moving it, and right click to drop it in place, R, Y, 90, and now you can see that I've got my piece of wood here, and I'm just going to move it to the middle, and I'm actually going to pull it out a little bit because I want these out slightly more than the other pieces. Now you can see that as I've brought it out, that this has gone past these pieces of wood here, and I don't really want that. So what I can do now is I can grab all three pieces of wood, and I'm just going to pull them back past that point where it just bevels off there. Now if yours moving too fast out and in, just hold the shift button down and that'll really slow down how much you can pull it in and out. So I just want it past there, like so, and I think I'm happy with that. Now what I'll do is I'll grab this piece here, press 1, press S and X and just bring them in. And then let's just try level them up a little bit because I don't want to waste too much of the polygon space going all the way into here when it doesn't need it. So let's press SX, just bring them in just a tiny bit more. And now we've got that in place, we can actually bring it down to the bottom. And how these will be built is basically this interlocking piece would be just a little bit higher than these two pieces on the left and right hand side. Okay, so now we've got that in place. Let's, while this is highlighted, press Shift D, make sure you've got it, right click just to drop it back in place, press 1, and let's pull it up to whereabouts we want it. So somewhere like there might be absolutely fine. And what I'll do now is I want to separate it from this piece here. So if I press P now, selection, and now it's actually separated out. Now I want to press Ctrl A, all transforms, right click, set origin to geometry. And now it's bang in the center of there. And we want it in the center of this because we're going to add another modifier, and this time we're going to bring in an array. Array modifier basically, as you can see, makes basically another copy at a certain distance. So if I turn the distance up, you can see the distance is from here to here, and now every single count I go up, you can see it's exactly the same distance. So let's put those back, and actually I'm going to put it on 2 just to start with. I'm going to set this to 0 because I don't want it going on the x-axis. I actually want it going on the z-axis, which is this one here. And if I drag this up a little bit, you can see now that we've got a distance from here to here. And what I want to do is I basically want the same distance from this one to this one to this one to be about the same. So if I pull this down, you can see they're roughly about the same. And now if I bring this up, so let's bring it up to something like that. What I want to make sure is that this, I don't want to be using this piece of wood. So what you can see is if I now bring up my Z, and you can see the distance now has changed from there to there, and I can actually pull this up a bit and make sure the distance is about even from these. They don't have to be exactly right. It is a medieval door after all. They're not exactly perfectly level or anything like that. So once you've got them in place now, what you can do is you can press apply, press the tab button, and now you can actually work on this mesh. Make sure that you're in edge select, grab this whole of this piece of wood here, press delete and vertices, and now what we'll do is we'll bring in this one. So I'm going to grab this one, L1, SX, bring it in, just to make sure that these corners aren't going past this wooden frame here. Now we've done that, all we need to do now is join these all together. So let's press tab to go into object mode, shift click on the other piece of wood just to make sure that you've got them all, press Ctrl J, and what that'll do is that'll join both of these meshes up into one object. And now you're free to reset all the transforms with Ctrl A, right click, set origin to geometry. Now let's come to our wooden frame, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to take off this bevel modifier just for now. Press Ctrl A, all transforms, right click, set origin to geometry, and now we're going to do exactly the same for the door, and this just makes sure that everything is reset so that when we come to put our materials on, it'll all be nice and neat and really easy to do. So let's press Ctrl A on the door frame, all transforms, right click, set origin to geometry, and now we can go in. So we'll come into these ones first, add modifier, bevel modifier. Now you might like it like that, but I want mine a little bit lower. I don't want it that much, and I'm going to set this, I think, to 0.1. I think that'll be absolutely fine. You might want your pieces metal, and I think that looks nice, wood or metal. So I'm not going to apply it. I'm going to come to the next part now, add modifier, bevel, turn it down again to 0.01, and now to our door frame, where I'm going to actually put this up just a little bit higher, probably 0.02. Let's have a look. And it might actually be nice at 0.03. Let's just make sure that's actually working. Yeah, 0.02. I think that should be absolutely fine. And the last thing we want to do is we just want to bring it out just a little bit, because we can see that it's really close to where that is. So if I press S, just bring them out a little bit, and now you can see that they're resting nice and easy in there, apart from the bottom. So let's do the bottom. So let's grab all the bottoms, and we're just going to pull them up just a little. Whoops. Go back, pull them up just a little bit, just above that piece of wood, just so no one can see them. So if I press 1 now, you can't actually see anything down the bottom. Okay, so that's it for this lesson. On the next lesson, we'll start on the wall, start on our hinges, and I think we'll pretty much finish up on the modelling on that lesson. Okay everyone, if you like this lesson, give me a like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks a lot everyone, bye bye.